Welcome into another edition of New Track Record. Caleb Hatch and Justin Kinney with you. And boy, news dump week for IndyCar for whatever reason. We have a ton to get to. I don't know how we're going to get through everything in this episode.
Yeah, we got a lot to get to. And so, it was like it's been like a 48-hour span.
Yeah, no, it was all. It started the week. I'm like, okay, we don't really have a lot. And then you had the Malukas injury, and then you had everything happen with Nashville and TV stuff, hybrid news. There's so much. So we'll dive right in as we record on this Thursday evening, February 15th here in the U.S. Thanks to everyone who listens, whether you're in the U.S., Canada, people all around the world. I think like St. Kitts and Nevis or whatever. Sometimes, yeah, there's a listener. You know, Argentina,
very nice.
Poland, Ukraine. New Zealand, Australia.
Just naming off.
Now I'm just naming off random countries, but no, I've seen all these countries. So thanks to everyone.
You're naming off future locales for IndyCar races. Is basically what you're doing.
Yeah, expanding the which we also had news on international races for IndyCar. So we covered the gauntlet. The only thing we didn't get was third OEM. But we do have news regarding a current OEM, so I guess we can sub that in. So we have so much. So we'll start, and of course, the big news of the week, and it's pretty obvious. It's IndyCar moving Nashville away from, Nashville and racing on Broadway. The Music City Grand Prix will now move to the Nashville Superspeedway, well outside of downtown Nashville on the concrete oval.
How far is it outside of town?
I've seen anything from around an hour drive. It's like
30 miles, right?
Yeah, it's like 30 to 40 miles outside of town.
Shockingly still called the Nashville Superspeedway when it's an hour away. Okay.
Yeah. So the move done because of concerns over construction with the Tennessee Titans' new stadium, and there's a lot of questions that obviously come about because of that being the move. Again, that stadium is going to take quite some time for it to be built. It's not supposed to open until 2028. So this is a long time. And again, the season finale moved away from the marquee downtown location, including running on Broadway. And a lot of people pointed to, how do they make this fit? Where's the paddock go? Well, now we know why. They couldn't figure it out because there was no space with construction concerns and what have you. So I think I don't even know where you start with this because there's just so much to pick away. One, I get that IndyCar fans are happy because you add another oval as far as the diehard fans, and
we're not happy.
No, not really. I mean, yes, there's going to be 7 ovals. You go back to 2011.
Of the final 8 races.
Yeah, 6 of the final 8. IndyCar finale on an oval, first time since 2014, but that was at Fontana. The last time it's been at an oval under a mile and a half was Phoenix in 1983, to put that in perspective. And they still plan to have activation in downtown Nashville. Scott Borchetta took over basically this event. There's apparently some change in leadership. He took over leadership in December. They couldn't get a firm answer from the NFL on the Titans' schedule and whether there could be a conflict with the race. That was among issues, according to Adam Stern. So, all this said, not necessarily blaming IndyCar on this, but you just wonder who failed in their due diligence first. Because for IndyCar to pull off this race as a season finale, they moved it to the season finale to be a boost for the event. Let's be honest, it was struggling. And you have Broadway involved, so you apparently, at least we thought, got the clear from the honky tonks and all the downtown businesses along there were impacted by this. Well, it turns out, I guess not.
Couldn't figure it out. We don't have details on why, because all we're hearing is due to construction. But what's that mean? Because I don't even know how much construction they've started on the site for the new stadium. Have they? I mean, is it fenced off? I mean, where are we at? What in particular? This almost sounds like an excuse because you read Marshall Pruitt's article on Racer.com, and I highly suggest it because there's a lot of information in there. And basically, from everything he's hearing, and there were rumors that this event was going to completely go away.
Yeah, and they were lucky to pull it off at Nashville Superspeedway, which again is very far away.
Very far away. It's not like in the shadow of Nashville. It's way far away.
The only positive is it's you just take 40 and you go 40 east and you can get there. But the real issue is it's well outside of downtown proper. You're not getting the crowd that you would get at a street race. That's kind of the point, right? But they at least have an easy access point to get there. But the problem is you're going to have more people coming from outside of Nashville, probably to this event, now that it's moved outside of the city. You're not attracting that crowd, which is kind of the whole point of it.
I think the reason why you and I aren't happy with this and why we're confused that so many people seemingly are, at least on social media, is something we've talked about ad nauseum on this podcast, is you need marquee events on your schedule. And there were 3 you feel with IndyCar: the 500, Long Beach, and Nashville. Those are the trio of really coveted races, coveted events, because they may not be the most exciting in terms of, you talk Long Beach, you talk Nashville, okay? But they are huge events in major metropolitan areas that other series would love to have. The Formula One would love to be racing at the streets of Long Beach. They have before, and they would love to be there again. I imagine NASCAR would eye Nashville. And quite frankly, we'll get to it a little bit. I think the next series to race on the streets of Nashville will be NASCAR. But you and I have talked about the fact that IndyCar lacks these marquee events. You look at Formula One with Vegas, adding that, you have NASCAR pulling off Chicago and looking into other markets. And while the Clash has gotten kind of stale, it sounds like next year they could try it in Mexico, something that IndyCar can't pull off. A race in Mexico,
despite having the most popular driver in the series being from Mexico.
Yeah, like that's a problem. But here was an event in Nashville. You were going to end the season on the streets of Nashville and then have all your celebratory parties. And it was a big event, and you're in a burgeoning market. And it was just a great setup. And now we're trading it for another oval. And I told you, I can't believe I'm actually defending a street race over an oval, because I used to love ovals. But it's just another race now.
And this is one because it's not an oval that's in a very populated area. It's not Kentucky, bad in terms of there's nothing around it. But
yeah, but it's not Gateway. It's not, in the shadow of
and there's no massive concert. Well, you would think there will be concerts, but now you wonder, how does that impact everything?
Well, too, is the series renting the Superspeedway? Is Nashville Superspeedway paying a sanctioning fee? Is it paid for by the sponsors? I haven't seen that. Is it a mere rental? Is it a 1-year rental? Because if this stadium's not being done until 2028, I can't imagine that quote unquote construction is any better next year or the year after. And you said it best. I think something about, we know how this goes. Okay. There's an excuse on why a race isn't happening for 1 year, but the plan is to return. And then we know how this goes. It never comes back.
Yes. And I guess that's the biggest thing. And I don't know if IndyCar didn't do their due diligence, I'm not necessarily blaming them. They're just unfortunately impacted by it. If Nashville, Music City GP organizers didn't do their due diligence correctly when they announced everything. Here's the one factor you have to keep in mind. Yes, this is a privately funded event. It wasn't using city funds or state funds. They're paying for police and fire and EMS and all those things. They're doing the construction of the street course. That was all privately done. So it's not like they were getting tax money to put on the event. However, there was a change in the mayor's office in Nashville in September of last year. So anytime you have politicians change offices for events like this, even in this case where there's no tax money going to it, it does give you pause. And I just wonder if that's an element of this that is playing a bigger role than we think.
There's more to the story, because what about the businesses on Broadway that were seemingly on board with this idea? Did they kind of push back when they found out maybe how long they were going to be inconvenienced with the construction of the track? Now that's going to be what you think, minimum a month? with that thing up, with putting it together with all the barriers and all that stuff. Like, that's a long time. And you wonder if they just didn't have the support, enough of the support of the city, and I'm talking business at the business level, to really kind of profit off this. And maybe the other secondary sponsors weren't there. And, a lot of businesses kind of push back and say, really, we're not going to have our regular street for 5-6 weeks? Like, I thought this was just a weekend thing, but then you find out logistically how long this takes, and maybe they're not. I just feel like there's more than just, construction issues.
That
just seems to be the excuse.
From Nathan Brown's story, IndyStar.com, I think says it all. Seemingly basic things like space for teams' transporters and their hospitality units, the potential conflict with the Titans home game, which is the first thing they cited, local funding approval that would have dragged into April, and proper access for local businesses and Nashville residents were flatly overlooked, Borchetta said Wednesday. Again, Titans Stadium, the timeline, fall of 2027. That's when it's supposed to be complete. Now, that's the current timeline. You know how timelines can change with construction at any given time based on weather, permits, funding, all these things. I mean, we see it in downtown Fort Wayne. There's a place that's finally coming together that sat as a pit for like a year and a half. And they're finally
the one by Headwaters. They're finally,
yeah.
Well, yeah, because there was issues with the soil and all that stuff, that construction. But
environmental testing, that can delay things too.
Yep. So you're looking at if the construction is the sole problem with it, which it's not. We've already established that. But if they use that as an excuse, then the next 3 years are unavailable for this event. Pretty much. Like 25, 26, you can't imagine they do it in 27 time-wise. Because when's the race? August?
September.
So you're right around it, and you never know if it's going to be a Titans game, which is like, you can't even get a straight answer from the NFL. That's like, probably the NFL is like, go away. Like, what are you just, don't bother us with such things. But I just, I don't feel like IndyCar will race on the streets of Nashville again. And I think NASCAR will, because I could see post new stadium, things kind of settle down a little bit, and NASCAR comes in and has this great plan, something that we know IndyCar is incapable of doing, and logistically having all T's crossed and I's dotted and all that stuff. I could see by the end of this decade, NASCAR running a street race at Nashville.
Now, ultimately, the question is, so they go to Nashville Superspeedway, what's next?
Well, what makes people think that this event has staying power? Because I think people, great, another oval, this is tremendous. Like, there are no safe ovals on this schedule.
Outside of
Indy. I mean, yeah. So you go Iowa, which we love the setup, but you still need mega musical acts to even get close to a sellout. Milwaukee is up for grabs, but it's already failed twice. Gateway is fading. What else am I forgetting?
Iowa, Milwaukee, Gateway, Indy, Nashville.
I mean, I look at it like Gateway's fading. And then Nashville, like Superspeedway, like how many people are going there? It seats about 40,000. I will be shocked if it's half full. And that doesn't have staying power. So now I don't understand the excitement that some people have for this event. You're basically, to have oval races, you're having 2 at Iowa, 2 at Milwaukee to try to pad the schedule a little bit. And now you add an event that I just don't think has staying power. It's another oval that plenty of people say they're excited, and there are barely anybody there.
Now, even Borchetta himself is admitting that IndyCar is unlikely to ever run on Lower Broadway.
I thought that was guaranteed.
Yeah.
Now, but then once again, like, are we throwing too much shade at IndyCars? I really think you look at Borchetta as the dude. Like, the dude has been in charge of this. We've had him on the show, right? On the podcast.
No, we had Jason Ritberry on.
Yeah,
he's still part of the team.
But it's kind of up to him. He's the one that sold all this plan to IndyCar, but IndyCar bought it hook, line, and sinker that they could pull this off, and then turns out they couldn't. And now you're stuck racing at an oval an hour outside of town. And people are so excited about, another oval to the schedule. Like, you people don't even go to the ovals that are on the schedule now outside of Indy. What are you so excited about?
This feels like another Boston, like another.
Well, at least they raced a couple times at Nashville and Boston.
True. Like the proposed race in China, right? That they talked about. That's going back to like 2011 or so.
Okay, I think for me, it just shows that once again, whether it's IndyCar's fault or not, they have some sort. They're not completely blameless in this. Okay, and while other entities can pull off mega events in the States, you talk about the Chicago Grand Prix, which we said would never happen, and it ended up happening for NASCAR, and then Vegas. 2 events that we said they'll never happen. NASCAR will never race on the streets of Chicago, and there is no way Formula One will be able to pull off Vegas. And you know what? Both of them did it. And pretty successful outside of the first practice for Vegas. Yeah. But IndyCar had this, hey, look at us. We can do these mega events too. Look at us in Nashville. We struck first here. This is going to be our home. We're going to make it like Long Beach in the Mid-South and the Upper South type thing. And it's going to be this huge event for years and decades. And what did we get? 2 years? 3?
3.
I just, and IndyCar fans are just so short-sighted that they see, another oval, that's great, but the long-term health of the series needs events like Nashville on the streets of Nashville, and now it's gone.
And the other issue is, so you move away from a race that's going to look great on TV, that's going to pull off something we didn't think was possible, which, well, it's not, after all, we've learned that, to a 1.33 mile oval the IndyCar raced at previously, 2001 and 2008, not known for very good racing. It's a concrete track, so they're going to have to do Firestone tire testing there to make sure they get everything squared away. And you're looking at a venue it's not going to look good on TV. You couple that in with, it's an oval, but this isn't California Speedway. This isn't Texas Motor Speedway. It's Nashville Superspeedway. And just hope they can figure out a good package for that track.
It's just kind of like a cookie cutter mile and a half is basically what it is. I mean, you look at it and I'm sorry, I don't have confidence in IndyCar in a short amount of time being able to put together a quote unquote competitive package.
Now, the good news is the series formerly known as Indy Lights will participate on the Nashville Superspeedway Oval for their season finale. So that will be cool. Because you could have, 20, 22 cars competing on a big oval, at least the biggest oval they compete on anymore. That's at least entertaining. And it gives, again, the other problem with a lot of these oval tracks is they just don't have enough support series. That's why street races and road course races work for IndyCar. You have constant on-track action between, the Road to Indy series, between Stadium Super Trucks, between Trans Am, like they did in Nashville. You can have, like the Ferrari Challenge or whatever.
Yeah.
Like there are plenty of series that you can run on road courses and street courses. Obviously IMSA at some of them as well. But Nashville, at least they're going to have lights. So I'm talking Indy Lights,
right?
Not
Indy Lights.
This will not be run at night because you'll be competing against the NFL.
But man, I mean, you look at it is it's in the middle of, it's 30 miles away. It's not really by any major metropolitan area. It's in Lebanon, Tennessee, which I think is small. And
Lebanon.
Sorry. I'm from the Midwest, I don't even know my upper South, but you're doing it on a Sunday that potentially could be a Titans game, or at the very least, the Titans will probably play on Sunday.
Yes.
So how's that going to factor in? How many people are really making that trip in mid-September? It sounds good now, but kids are back to school. NFL is just getting started. It'll be week 3 for the NFL?
Week 2?
Yeah, because it'll be 2. That's 2 weeks removed from Labor Day.
Yeah, week 2.
So I'm just like, I don't know. If IndyCar, I think, got 20,000 for this race, I think it'd be phenomenal. I don't think they're getting 20,000 people. And I know this is like, it was tough to be on social media because even the drivers, are trying to promote, this is going to be so exciting and blah, blah, blah. But you kind of think like they know that they know this is a significant step down in terms of event.
Unless you're a Penske driver, you have a good chance to win.
That's true.
They dominate short oval.
And here's the thing. People will say, well, Nashville was a crash fest and blah, blah, blah. It didn't race well. That's not the point. The point is it was a marquee event. Okay. And some of the worst races are at some of the marquee events, like Cup on the streets of Chicago. That wasn't very exciting, but it was a huge event.
I mean, it was exciting because
of the spectacle
SVG winning.
Yeah,
and you had rain and it was just chaotic all weekend. They pulled it off.
Yeah, but it's a regular dry race. Like it's going to be very procedural. Vegas, I mean, it was just like any other Formula One race last year. It had some amount of excitement, but by and large, didn't have it. But it's all about the spectacle of the event. And you have spectacle at the 500. You have spectacle at Long Beach. That's it. Don't come at me with Road America. It's a very good event. People turn out in droves. I get it. It's not a spectacle. And we talk about IndyCar needed to take that next step and take some risks and get some huge, big events in to rival Cup and even Formula One, or at least show that they're trying. And you just lost one of them for another oval that not very many people are going to show up. And quite frankly, I'm not confident in IndyCar being able to put together a package that races well there. As you mentioned, it wasn't like it raced well before.
No. Now they're still going to do the pit stop competition downtown, and they're going to have rooftop race weekend parties, but without access right by the track.
Yeah.
How big of a draw is that? And they're going to do music in the midway and all that. I understand. Look, they got to convert it and do the best they can, but it's not the same thing.
No, not far from it. It's not good. People that are excited about the oval, I get it, but it's incredibly, incredibly short-sighted.
IndyCar went from having, of course, the Indy 500 as their marquee event every year. You throw in Long Beach as the 1B to the Indy 500's 1A. You add Nashville season finale and Thermal, which I get fans are upset about Thermal, but at least it's something different and IndyCar's trying something.
Yeah. It may not be for
now
us,
you lost one of those things. Mm-hmm. And you lost perhaps the most enticing part of that group as far as the additions, because Thermal is not an event for fans, whereas Nashville is still going to be an event for fans.
Well, it's
very, very accessible to the fan base as well. Thermal is not, except for people in Southern California and for the ultra wealthy.
I don't care how Nashville raced. I actually liked Nashville. You and I kind of agreed with it. The unpredictability and chaos. I don't want every race like that, but that was fun. I'm perfectly fine with chaos being part of the season finale. Isn't that part of I would rather that than a processional race around an oval that doesn't race well. So you had an event downtown Nashville that was the envy of other series. And there are very few events that IndyCar has. And now one of those has gone away, probably for good.
Yes. We move on with other events / potential events. Argentina off the table, not a viable option for this year, according to Mark Miles. We all knew once Argentina had their presidential election based on the results, and then you had MotoGP canceling recently. That race scheduled for April. They canceled. You pretty much knew the writing was on the wall for IndyCar in Argentina. Not to say they can't come back in the future, but we know how these things work. You have a couple of year build up, kind of like IndyCar had with Australia.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, I mean, Australia is nowhere near the radar now, to put that in perspective.
Yeah.
Now, as long as Ricardo Juncos is involved in the series, there will be that chance. But if it's not happening this year, what would lead you to think it's happening next year?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, you kind of look at it as if we don't know the exact situation, but we can guess that, okay, it would be federally funded. A lot of it would be federally funded. If the president of Argentina has looked at this and say, we're cutting back on things like this, like MotoGP, and we're not investing in IndyCar, what changes next year or the year after? I mean, I think you would need a tremendous boost to the Argentina economy for maybe them to open up the coffers to do that. And, you know, every politician wants to come in and one of his or her goals is to cut spending, right? People love that phrase. Oh, we're going to cut spending. Well, IndyCar and MotoGP were victims of that cut spending. So I don't see it happening anytime soon. I don't think this is just a 1-year delay to get the logistics figured out. I think this is probably not happening in the foreseeable future type thing.
Yeah, it's just the reality. Like we talked about with Nashville and a new mayor. Again, that was a privately funded event. And the way we understood it, this also would have a lot of private funding and sponsorship, but it was still going to take some state money from Argentina to pull it off. And with the change in leadership, that was the writing on the wall. Once MotoGP canceled, you knew there was no shot that IndyCar was ever going to race in Argentina this year. So it is what it is. You move on, and we move on to other topics because so many stories came out this week.
Well, and it was just a one after another. Just it was like we were the nail, and hammer just kept getting hammered lower and lower as things kept coming out.
Then you had before all this, you had David Malukas. A report came out that he was involved in a mountain biking crash the previous weekend. Well, then he had surgery. He is out for about 6 weeks after that mountain biking crash. And so it was to repair torn ligaments in his dislocated left wrist, according to the Aaron McLaren team. He'll have 6-week recovery timeline following the removal of his stitches on February 22nd. So again, they're going to have a driver replacement for him for St. Pete and likely Thermal as well. And with that, you kind of wonder, who's that person to fill in? I mean, immediately the name who comes to mind for me is Callum Ilott. There was even a report that he was having a seat fitting, but his girlfriend countered that on social media, saying, no, he's in Italy right now. He's not at the shop doing a seat fitting. Yeah,
that was Jenna Fryer putting in that. She said she believed he's going to be in the Indianapolis area to get a McLaren seat fitting ahead of a test at Homestead. And was it his girlfriend that responded?
I believe so, yeah.
Said, no, we're in Italy. And so that kind of put the kibosh on that. But maybe when he gets back from Italy, he'll head to McLaren to get a seat fitting.
Yeah, we'll see. So, again, wish him best of luck in his recovery. It's unfortunate that's how his season is starting out. Where he's not even able to
starts
race.
Off not ideal, but one of those freak things.
Then we have Takuma Sato, confirmed as the 4th entry for Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing for the Indianapolis 500. Amada America is the sponsor. There were rumors that Sato could maybe go to Coin. That the kibosh put on that last week goes to where we figured he'd end up to begin with. And that is at Rahal. He'll be in the number 75 entry. So he's gone back to Rahal again. Obviously won the 500 there in 2020, nearly won it in 2012. This is a much improved team and driver lineup year over year.
Is it kibosh or kibosh?
I think it can be either one.
Okay, because I say kibosh. You said kibosh.
I said kibosh. Sure
yeah, I was
potato.
Yeah, but but still, I mean, you got to have recent memory of Rahal missing the 500. I mean, yeah, he backed in, but what's this team look like at in May at the 500 with four drivers? You hope that it's considerably improved. We saw improvement over the latter half of the year, but it's still the biggest test of the season. We don't know what RLL is going to look like comparatively to what they did previous years, especially of late. So it's probably the best one-off driver you can get, a multi-time Indianapolis 500 winner, of course. I think this more has to do with where's RLL's program come May, because I think Takuma Sato is a guy, obviously, that's going to send it. Maybe make some crazy moves here or there, but that's his mindset. And if he's in the right place at the right time, it could turn out. But the hope, the expectation is that RLL is a little bit more competitive next May.
So rounding out the grid, so we look at where we're at, possibly a 3rd entry for AJ Foyt. And that could be about it. Coin does not intend to run a 3rd entry. They still haven't announced their first 2 full season entries.
Full-time entries.
At that, we figured there was a chance that would happen this week. Well, we had plenty of other news.
We're like 3 weeks away. Come on, Coin.
They are having conversations. It's, according to Racer.com, said to require quite a bit of funding.
Could you see a situation where Coin says we're just going to run one full-timer? Because my thing is, like, if you don't even have the funding to announce one, and we're like 3 weeks away.
But those leader circle entries are worth quite a bit.
That's true.
But
good point.
I don't believe that.
Did one of them not qualify for
I don't
year?
think one of them qualified last year, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm just like Dale, like if you don't have the money and you're still looking for money for 2, like Can you cobble together enough funding for one at this point? And I know that's not ideal. You want two guys out there and multiple banks of data and all that stuff. But I'm just saying, like, you're like 3 weeks away. Might want to just, okay, we may add a second later, but we're just going to roll with one at this point. I mean, it's a running joke, TBA, but like behind the scenes, like, come on.
The Stingray Rob entry did not get leader circle money. So that's probably why it's requiring some funding, and it's going down to the wire because they're trying to put that together. But as far as Foyt, they're looking at it. I think it's going to come down to, again, who brings the biggest check. Some names thrown out there. Previously been Jared Hildebrand. That's one to keep on the radar.
He has history there. So
Nolan Siegel has brought some money. He's sniffing around trying to find something.
Yeah, I just don't see him getting his.
I don't necessarily either.
Stephen Wilson, would have a chance there.
Those are some of the people as far as who could fill in an extra entry now with Sato confirmed. But there's not a lot left. But yes, Catherine Legg also mentioned as well. So those are the names on the short list, and this could possibly be the final entry. And the third car at Foyt would be the 36th entry once all is said and done.
Is that would it be 36 or 35?
It would be 36.
Okay, if both of those?
Well, if you have two at Coin plus a third at Foyt.
Okay. Gotcha.
But again, I think 35 is the more realistic number.
Probably. I would say so.
So there's not a lot left. And again, Coin, no interest in a third car. So the third at Foyt is the one entry. And again, with the Penske partnership, the technical alliance, it's a more interesting group to run for, even if it is a third car, plus the engineering upgrades they made last year and how much success and how much speed they had. So it is really, they can just sit and wait for the highest bidder, and if they're able to get someone who can provide the funding that they want, I'm sure they'll pull the trigger, and Chevy has the engine leases available. Honda, it's got to be a special circumstance, I think, for there to be another entry at this stage in the game with how many they already have.
No, I think it doesn't make sense for Coin. Quite frankly, I don't think it makes sense for Foyt, but it sounds like at this point could be likely.
All right, so we made it through just the headline stories of the week. There's still so much else to come in news and notes. But first, if you agree or disagree with us, and I'm sure you do regarding Nashville, I'm sure you have a strong opinion either way, we'd love to hear from you. You can interact with us, newtrackrecordpodcast@gmail.com. Send us an email on social media. IndyCar Podcast on Twitter /X and Instagram. On Facebook, just search for New Track Record. On the website, newtrackrecordpodcast.com. You can sign up for the email list so you never miss an episode or any special announcements. Plus, we have t-shirts and stickers for sale in the store. Shout out to, I believe it was Kevin from Wisconsin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. Just bought a sticker. So.
Nice.
And as always, you can support us via Patreon. Patreon.com/newtrackrecord. Starting at just $1 a month, thanks to Xavier and others for their support every month. And of course, as always, you can listen to the podcast, download it for free on your favorite podcasting platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pocket Casts, Podcast Addict, wherever you listen to podcasts, all for free. All right. That said, time for the mailbag. And of course, we have a lot to get to this week on the mailbag because of, everything that's going on. Hy-Vee, and this is fun. Hy-Vee sponsorship of the IndyCar doubleheader
forgot about this.
at the Speedway runs through this year. Now in discussions with NASCAR to sponsor this year's Cup Series race weekend in some form as well. That from Adam Stern, and that quote from an article. That was a Hy-Vee executive spokesperson talking about that. Scuba Steve 85 said IndyCar should leak that they're in talks to return to NOLA.
That'll get people talking.
Hunter's Way 67 said, kiss Iowa goodbye in a year or two, just great. And NK Harden said, glad Iowa and Hy-Vee had the chance to practice with IndyCar.
Well, and that's kind of what it is, right? We saw Gateway practice with IndyCar.
Yeah.
It led to a Cup date. Now that's their most important race, and same thing's going to happen in Iowa, and for good reason. People, I mean, these tracks get tens of millions of dollars per race that they host NASCAR. It makes total sense what they do. It's a kick in the gonads every time it happens, but this is reality, and these tracks, especially ovals in the United States, their ultimate goal is to host NASCAR. It's not IndyCar, because IndyCar doesn't pay compared to NASCAR. Their ultimate goal is to get a Cup date, and Gateway's pulled it off. Iowa's pulling it off. It's just you just have to shake your head and roll with it, because it's unfortunately reality in the motorsports world of where IndyCar is in the hierarchy. I just don't see a scenario where Hy-Vee is doing two of these mega events a year, one for NASCAR, one for IndyCar. So it's been fun at Iowa, but it could be coming to an end pretty soon.
Yeah, and I felt like we saw the writing on the wall when the CEO who brought Hy-Vee on board, several years ago when he stepped down, Randy Edeker, I want to say was his name. They've kept it going to our surprise. That's positive, but doesn't feel good. Yeah, and
we've said for a couple of years, it's like the only reason why they're at Iowa is because of Hy-Vee. So it's not like, they'll find somebody else. Like, no, Hy-Vee is the financier for that entire weekend, and they're not going to do two. They're not. Not the amount of money that they're pumping in to get these musical acts. There's just no way. Maybe 1 year, that's it.
This from Dopazo Rodrigo. This in response to last week's episode about the guaranteed starting spots. Just imagine sponsoring a car that is slower than someone who got bumped just because you paid for your spot, and only to be trailing all day long in the greatest spectacle in racing the day after. You'd be the laughingstock of the entire racing world. With the gif of Mr. Rogers putting on the clown mask.
Yeah, but they'd be like, you know what? We're still getting paid.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're getting their leadership circle money.
I guess so. I'm sure you'd be real proud.
Check clears.
This on the Nashville news. I said, what? Hey, at least another oval. That was tongue in cheek.
Yeah, that was tongue in cheek, and people were like super excited about it.
I don't know if people caught on to that.
No, it's like I'm shaking my head at the amount of people that were excited.
You
when
knew
this
that
news
was
came
tongue
out.
in cheek,
yes,
right? Okay.
But like the amount of people that were excited that, yes, we're going away from the streets of Nashville and going to an oval was just like absurd to me.
Beans B-Card blog. Interesting, especially for teams that have rides split between oval and road street drivers. How does that affect sponsorship ride costs? Great point. The Roth said, what a step back for what is supposed to be a marquee event as your season finale. Either a massive mistake in planning scheduling or a bait and switch on the fans. What did IndyCar know and when did they know it? Unfortunately, I feel like they found out probably a week ago that this was a possibility.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, but I think IndyCar knew before that, because Marshall Pruitt has said he's been hearing rumors for a while that the event was going to go away. So if he knows things, IndyCar surely knows things.
NK Harden says, I'm all for new ovals, but I hate in all caps. This takes away one of the biggest street race events of the year. I seriously wonder if they ever go back to the streets, watch NASCAR come in and take the event away. Well,
exactly what we've been saying, right?
VV, high even bother. Honestly, that's very cool. So they're thrilled for it. That's fine.
That's fine.
I understand. Everyone has their mixed reactions. And I'm usually not the negative one, but I've been very negative about this.
Yeah.
Poet Shevchenko saying, think this is very good news that the Indy Lights drivers will get some high-speed oval experience. That is true. That's one positive. Continuing on with other thoughts on this. Nick _Booth 50. Nashville will be replaced with another massive street race next year is my guess, and will be kept on the oval if the turnout is good. I hope so.
Yeah, I guess.
I hope.
I guess.
I don't have much.
What makes anybody
confidence.
think? Yeah, what makes anybody think that the series can pull that off? What makes you really think that a lot of people are going to go to Nashville Superspeedway for that race? Because here's the thing: is like how many people can afford? Like if you're going to a race, you're either going to pick. You usually pick the Indy 500 and then a couple other races.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're going to Indy and Milwaukee, you're probably not going to Nashville. Or if you're going to Iowa and Indy, probably not going to Nashville. If you're going to Road America and Milwaukee, probably not going to Nashville. Like, I don't know.
Let's just put it this way. I was interested in, was likely going to go to Nashville.
Your brother lives in Knoxville, right?
Yeah. And we've gone to the Nashville race a couple times with some other friends included. But the whole reason of why we wanted to go was because of it being on Broadway and the location and the experience.
The honky tonks and all that stuff, and walk around downtown and Broadway. And
on the Oval? No. And one of my friends, his in-laws live like outside of Lebanon, and he's like, no, I wouldn't even go to that.
There's just
like, and he would have a free place to stay.
Right. And there are, I guarantee you, there are more examples of your situation of not going now, as opposed to people going, oh, it's at the Oval now. Now I'm going to go. I guarantee you there are less people on that side of things.
More responses on the, we like another Oval, but we also like marquee events that put IndyCar on the map. You posted that. I paraphrased there. Chad _15 said, I think they will draw well. It doesn't take much to fill stands at Nashville. It's not the size of Texas in terms of seating. That is the one positive. It is a right-sized track in terms of capacity on an Oval for IndyCar, outside, of course, the Indy 500.
They can't fill Gateway anymore. They can't fill Iowa. Those are similar-sized places.
That is true.
Milwaukee, I mean, is that going to be full? So
this year feels like the biggest bet on the future of ovals for IndyCar, outside, of course, the Indy 500 that we've ever seen. It feels very make or break.
It's a great point, and I think maybe another podcast will expand upon it, because it's a good point, because there are several ovals that are like, okay, put up or shut up type thing, and it's not really the tracks itself; it's the fans. You wanted this. You wanted 6 of the final 8 races being ovals. Now you better get your asses to races. We'll see if they do.
Yeah.
I have my doubts.
I do as well. Jeremy from HBG saying, or the downtown track design was so compromised by construction plans that even the guys who made the first layout thought, hey, this isn't going to work. Anyone have plan Q? Well, I think that is what happened.
But I
based
think
on what we've learned.
We need more details than, construction.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us what happened.
Luke BS37 said, fully agree. Not going to lie in terms of the, this being taking away a marquee event. Also, Grizz814, IndyCar was not at fault here, but the Oval will be mostly empty. So we're not alone in our fears of what this event will or will not be. Nick _Booth 50 said, are you buying tickets? And it's like, well, I was interested.
You were interested, not anymore.
Also adds, if you ever went to the Music City GP the past few years, it was rough to get around. I didn't really have issues. That wasn't really, they had plenty of bridges. The first year was crazy because it's the first year of an event, and that's just what happens for those things. But after that, I mean, it rained.
Year 2, yeah.
And then I couldn't make it last year, but in year 2, when it rained, like you stood under the concourse in the Titan Stadium because that was open and it was fine, and they got going.
I never heard that Nashville was any more difficult to get around than any other street course, but could be wrong.
Yeah, I never got that impression. I thought it was actually fine. More thoughts on Nashville, because of course that's the highlight for the
topic of the week.
Christos saying, I hope the people show up. Another mostly oval track. If not, what a way to end the season. The downtown racetrack wasn't the most exciting, but the optics on TV would have been great.
Precisely. That's what you said.
Racer Mac RTP1 saying, and that is how eventually Cup gets back to Motegi in Long Beach. Sees fenders on Sunday with IMSA on Saturday. That's with Honda. Didn't get to this yet. Remains in talks about the possibility of joining NASCAR. And negotiations at a 4th OEM are heating up. That's talking NASCAR, not IndyCar.
So when you talk about Honda and they were invested in Formula One, then they were leaving. Now they're not. Now they're staying. And now you have Honda interested in NASCAR, and all of the discussion with IndyCar has been, we're going to bail. So, oh man, it's like I said, it's like we are the nail this week and just getting hammered.
Everything is awesome, right?
Yeah, but hey, trading cards.
Hey, wow. We'll get to that actually. Okay. Someone made a great joke on that.
And we love the trading cards. Look,
we do.
It's not as, if that's your off-season highlight, there's a problem.
Daguerre said, "You're lucky with your timing of this week's recording, right?" With a smiley face. Malukas injury, Nashville Superspeedway, no race in Argentina. Other IndyCar related podcasts were not so lucky with a wink face. Yeah, we're on top of this. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. That's what I replied.
And that's
back.
largely what carries this podcast.
Is luck.
For sure. But yeah, I sent that Honda to you, and I could almost hear the exasperated reaction from you.
I think it just responded, ugh.
I think it was like, are you something about like, ugh, are you serious, or no way, or something like that. I said, hey, Adam Stern never lies.
No.
And it was piling on because it was the same day as the Nashville thing.
Yeah, that was in the evening. That was after everything.
It was just like everything was coming to it.
What a day.
It was brutal.
This from R. Cole, but we now have trading cards, so everything is going great.
Yes, which we praise the
Remember these big
cards.
off-season announcements.
Yes.
Trading cards, 100 Days to Indy back, Paramount Plus, international distribution, Nashville moving from Broadway to Nashville Superspeedway. Whoops, wait, what?
Well,
that one doesn't belong.
And, today, we record this on Thursday. It was the CW put it out, season 2 of okay, that's great, I guess, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, season 2 premieres April 26th, 9 to 10 p.m. Unfortunately, that's on a Friday night. It'll run weekly on the CW during a special sports programming block. That's the good sign. Yeah. And again, the streaming element for season 1. It's continuing. That's all I care about.
Yeah, that it's good. It's continuing. I don't necessarily like the format, but it's something is better than nothing.
And I thought it was well done last year.
The production was phenomenal.
Speaking of TV, Jeremy from HBG, Fox's only streaming platform is the recently announced Sports Chunk thing that will be more expensive than Peacock. That is after Fox has emerged as a serious contender for IndyCar broadcast rights.
That was another fascinating article because it did break down that new bulk sports package that's going to be available come in the fall that doesn't include NBC or USA, but it does include...
Or CBS and Paramount Plus.
But it does include Fox and FS1 and FS2. So that's it. I mean, how serious is serious? It sounded pretty damn serious in Marshall's article. And you could look at the potential there. They do that, is it a daily race hub show on FS1?
I believe so.
I'm not saying IndyCar needs a daily show, but could we get a weekly IndyCar show on FS1?
Bring back IndyCar Live.
There you go. IndyCar
on
36,
Versus.
maybe?
No, IndyCar Live on like Versus way back.
Oh, gosh, that was...
You remember that?
I do remember that.
It was like their studio show.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I think there's opportunity with Fox. I really do.
The Fox Sports CEO, Eric Shanks, born in Indiana, was
a guest last year at the 500
that
or
helps.
A race or something like that. Like, I think this is genuine interest here.
And they would have the ability to one-up NBC as far as motorsports rights.
And, because they're losing a chunk of their cup rights starting with the new TV deal. They're losing like 10 races, right?
Starting with, they're not going to have the Coke 600, which that blew me away.
Which was usually their last race before they handed things over to, NBC or TNT, whoever it was. But
now it's going to be like Amazon Prime and TNT.
Yeah. But here's the thing with IndyCar. We know how IndyCar operates in these things. The offer the bid for the rights has to be substantially more that Fox puts out than IndyCar, than NBC, because IndyCar hates change. We see it with, every time, I'm going to say every time, but last time we had a chassis competition. Remember that? It was like 40 years ago, it feels like. And they said, okay, everybody turn. What'd they go with? Dallara. Like, they don't like change. Like, unless the offer is insane money, like upwards of $10 million more than what NBC is offering, I don't think IndyCar switches, because they're like, oh, NBC's been good to us and blah, 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 and all this crap. They're just afraid to take a leap, which I think there's more potential if you went to Fox.
I agree. And sometimes the change is needed. If the money is close, I say you stick with NBC, but if you're getting a solid substantial bump, you make the change.
And here's the thing is the trend, and I know 2 years doesn't make a trend, but more races going to USA this year. Does that trend continue? And quite frankly, Fox Sports 1 is a better alternative station to have your non-network races than USA. It's similar to when NBC had NBCSN. That was a better option than USA. And of course with this bulk package of quote unquote sports networks that you're able to get now, and NBC and USA isn't even a part of it. That's a big thing as well. So I hope. We've heard multiple entities interested, but this is the first article where we've gotten somebody other than NBC that's making a real big effort to maybe get those rights. At the very least, could it drive the cost up a little bit for IndyCar?
Hopefully, hope, yeah. Right?
Could it get up into the $30 million range, $35 million range? I think that'd be phenomenal, even if NBC retains it. So it's a good position to have if you have multiple suitors that are interested in offering money. We'll see where this goes.
Quickly, news and notes. Chip Ganassi Racing has added Root Insurance to the team. Now, they were on Ryan Hunter-Reay's Indy 500 car last year. They'll be at select races on the number 11 for Marcus Armstrong and the number 10 of Alex Palou. In fact, they unveiled Armstrong's Ridgeline green car, very similar to what we saw previously, but looks good. They unveiled that earlier this week. Pato Award is doing his special ticket package for the Indy 500 because no Texas Motor Speedway this year. You can watch the race in one of the suites on the front straight. Tickets on his shop page, patricioawardshop.com. So that's how you can get the info there for that. Austin Cindric, of course, son of Team Penske president Tim Cindric, competing in the Daytona 500 this weekend. And his helmet will have a tribute to Gilles de Ferran. Really, really cool helmet. Really cool tribute for him on there. And then tweets of the week. It's just one tweet, and it is from the Tim Durham. It's the fastest 33 cars, and of course, it's the meme of Travis Kelce yelling at Andy Reid,
which made its rounds this week post Super Bowl.
Absolutely. Sure. All right. Random split error driver of the week time.
All right. We have 2005 Champ Car. Is that what we have? And we figured out who it was. I gave you the name and then you figured out how to say it.
Yes. Ryan DL. DL. Wow. I already screwed up. Ryan DL is the driver from 2005 in Champ Car. He ran one race for Dale Coyne Racing that year.
Just one race at Toronto. Top 10. But, when there's only 15 cars out there.
Now, he did run for Pacific Coast Motorsports in Champ Car in 2007 in the final season. Handful of top 10s. You got to remember, they had like 17 cars on the grid.
Right.
Best finish of 7th at Toronto that year as well. But he missed the race in San Jose. He did finish 10th in the TT Circuit Assen, the race in Netherlands.
Yep.
Didn't compete in Surfers, though, or Mexico City to close out that season. But that's it. He ran in Atlantics for a handful of years, won a couple of races in 2003, a lot more in 2004 for Sierra Racing. Finished second both those years in the Atlantic Championship, which, of course, was really the better championship than Lights for quite some time before it went away.
Yeah.
But yeah. Just one race in 2005 and then a handful in 2007.
Interestingly, he raced in Daytona prototypes after he was done in Champ Car, and his teammate Henry Zogaib, I don't know how to say his name, they competed in the inaugural season of Super League Formula. 1 year later in 2009, Zogaib was under investigation for operating a Ponzi scheme in which he reportedly conned, what's his name? DL. He conned DL and his father out of $550,000. No details on how, but that's interesting. Former teammates, and he was running a Ponzi scheme. I guess he got DL to buy into something hook, line, and sinker, and then had to pay him back 6 figures. But that was the maybe one of the post Champ Car highlights or lowlights.
Wait, was this a Paul Gentilozzi special?
What's that?
Paul Gentilozzi? No, it was not Paul Gentilozzi.
No, it's not.
Okay, because he also was known for ripping drivers off.
No, it wasn't that. But did some LMP2 in the MC United Sports Car Championship. He was with Scott Sharp in 2014 as a co-driver in prototypes, and he's continued in the FIA World Endurance Championship and still racing. In and out of things, still just 41 years old. So has been a He's racing with Era Motorsport this year in IMSA WeatherTech sports cars in LMP2.
Very successful in sports cars.
Yes, very much so.
But I definitely was aware of him in 2005. That was a thin year in Champ Car. But look, guys got seats. You take advantage. He took advantage of the opportunities that he had in that era. But as always in racing, it probably comes down to funding, right? So
and it didn't
work out in open wheel, but it certainly has in sports cars.
Yeah, definitely. And won the 24 Hours of Daytona way back in 2010. So this week's random split era driver of the week from Scotland, Ryan DeLille.
All right, Ryan DL.
Dang it. Ryan DL. It doesn't even look like
Watch us
DL.
both be wrong. And I looked it up.
No, it's in Wikipedia. I shouldn't say Wikipedia because Wikipedia wrong, but it is DL. Born 12 April 1982. So Ryan DL, yes, he's our random split era driver of the week.
Hopefully next week, less insane, but hopefully noteworthy on a more positive
Maybe more positive
level.
Next week.
We could go for that. For Justin Kinney, I am Caleb Hatch. Thanks for joining us on New Track Record Podcast.
Podcasts by Federated Media.